guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. Now that first video I did with this affidavit, it was really long. And I'm going to go through this at this point and I'm editing. So I'm trying to get the key points, especially related to former Sheriff Marcos Lopez, which the affidavit is about to dive straight into if you listen to at least to the end of my last reading. So I'm going to do a lot of editing on this one, and that way you can get to some of the meat and potatoes, as they say, of the affidavit that was submitted to arrest former Sheriff Marcos Lopez. Sharon Frederick stated that she has never deposited money directly into Kristana Dekorian's bank account. She would be instructed by Kristana Dekorian to deposit the money into her own account and then give Kristana Dekorian a money order in the amount of the money deposited. For example, a $20,000 cashier's check. Sharon Frederick was questioned if she felt comfortable operating at the Eclipse Social Club, even though other gambling rooms were being raided by the police. She said she felt comfortable because she was aware that Sheriff Marcos R. Lopez had helped Kristana Dekorian get the building for the Eclipse Social Club. Sharon Frederick explained that the Sheriff Marcos Lopez helped Kristana Dekorian find the building and that Kristana Dekorian originally met the sheriff through a person named Dan. Sharon advised that Dan used to be a security guard with Allied Security. Your officiants learned that Sharon believed Kristana donated money to Lopez's campaign for Osceola County Sheriff, which resulted in additional meetings between the two. Kristana would always tell Sharon and the employees of the Eclipse Social Club that they were safe there because of the sheriff. Yeah, the dirty sheriff. Your officiants learned that Sharon described an incident that took place months ago, or maybe the end of last year, where Marcos Lopez had warned Kristana to be careful because of a task force investigating gaming establishments. Kristana and then told Sharon to take down the bank accounts, meaning to reduce the balances in the accounts. Frederick clarified that she did not personally hear Sheriff Marcos Lopez say that to take the bank accounts down, but she was in the presence of Kristana Dekorian when he was talking to the sheriff on the phone. After taking the balance of the accounts down, they let the balance go back up to a balance of $100,000. Sharon said Kristana told her it was okay now. After Marcos Lopez won the election for the Osceola County Sheriff, 2 more gambling places opened down the road that were competition. Kristana told Frederick not to worry about them because Dekorian was going to get them busted. Wow. She said she had never personally seen Sheriff Marcos Lopez in the Eclipse Social Club, but believes he was there before it officially opened. Sharon stated her husband had told her he had previously observed the sheriff at the Eclipse Social Club location. Your officiants learned that Sharon Frederick recalled a time when Kristana asked her to leave $20,000 in cash for him at the Eclipse. Kristana told her he was going to meet his buddy to give him something. Sharon stated that she left 2 bundles of $100 bills totaling $10,000 each at the Eclipse Social Club. Kristana took the money, and then the next day Frederick stated that he told her they were okay and that Dekorian talked to him. Frederick stated that she understood that as Dekorian referred to him as meaning Sheriff Marcos Lopez. Sharon told Kristana that they were losing customers, and Kristana responded that after the election of the sheriff, they would be good to go. Man. Your officiants learned that on September 12, 2024, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, Inspectors James Franks and Daryl McCormick met with Sharon Frederick at the Orange County Jail and conducted an in-person interview. Prior to the interview taking place, Inspector Frankwitz contacted Sharon Frederick's attorney and coordinated the meeting. Sharon told the FDLE inspectors that she had worked for Lake County Live, owned by Kristana Chris Dekorian, for almost 6 years. Her job at the Eclipse Social Club was to pull and count the money from gambling machines as well as to pay the rent and utility bills. Sharon Frederick stated that Kristana Dekorian had met Sheriff Lopez during his last campaign. They were introduced through a Hispanic security guard that Marcos Lopez knew that worked at the Players Club in Lake County. Sharon Frederick stated at the time there were no gaming establishments in Kissimmee, and Kristana Dekorian wanted to open a gambling business there. Sharon stated that Lopez helped Dekorian find the commercial property for the Eclipse Social Club with the owner, Mr. Dillion. Your officiants confirmed through an internet search of the Osceola County Property Appraiser website that the property where the Eclipse Social Club is located, 4561 West Earl O. Bronson Memorial Highway, Kissimmee, Florida, is owned by Dillion Properties, Inc., which is owned by Gurvinder Singh Dillon. Your officiants learned that Sharon Frederick advised Kristana Dekorian often spoke to Sheriff Lopez by cell phone. Kristana Dekorian would tell his employees he was talking to his friend, but Sharon and the other employees knew he was talking to Marcos Lopez. Kristana Dekorian was sworn in as a civilian Osceola County Sheriff Special Deputy by Marcos Lopez. Sharon stated that she was aware that Kristana had donated money to Marcos Lopez's campaign during his first run as sheriff. Sharon Frederick stated Kristana Dekorian told his employees he was protected at Eclipse by the sheriff. That is so disgusting. It truly, truly is. And I hope that everyone in Osceola County is highly disgusted by this information, that the sheriff has been so corrupted since the get-go. Sharon Frederick stated that she was aware that a while ago, Sheriff Marcos Lopez had told Dekorian the MBI, consisting of Orange Lake and Osceola counties, had formed a committee for the game rooms, but Dekorian said the sheriff told him it was okay. When Kristana Dekorian's other establishments were being shut down, the Eclipse Social Club staff became concerned they would be next. Kristana Dekorian told his employees, "We are protected by the sheriff." Kristana also mentioned Marcos Lopez said he was going to join the investigation team. Gee, what a conflict of interest there going on, huh? Besides all the other shady stuff. According to Dekorian, Lopez indicated that those leading the investigation would notify Lopez, and then Marcos Lopez would inform Kristana Dekorian of the status of their investigation. Sharon Frederick stated up until this time, Kristana Dekorian said and his employees communicated either by phone or through WhatsApp. However, after learning about the possible law enforcement investigation, Kristana Dekorian told his employees to take his name off of their WhatsApp group chat and told them not to call him. Gee, I don't want any evidence that I'm a part of any of this stuff. See, Kristana is trying to distance himself, but there's just so much evidence. And just because you think you delete something or decide that you're going to just cut it off, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's all still there. Sharon Frederick overheard some of Kristana Dekorian's conversations with Marcos Lopez, but mostly heard Kristana arranging plans as to when and where to meet Marcos Lopez. Sharon Frederick stated Marcos Lopez drove a black sports utility vehicle she thought resembled an Escalade. While working one evening, she looked outside the window and saw Marcos Lopez's vehicle backed into a parking space. She could not remember the date. Frederick was aware that Kristana Dekorian and Marcos Lopez often met for dinner together at either the Bahama Breeze or another restaurant. Sharon knew Kristana met with Marcos Lopez for dinner because Kristana would often show her pictures from his phone of them, Lopez and Dekorian, posing together with their wives. Yeah. And of course, Lopez's estranged wife there, where she's like, I'm not involved. Your officiants learned that Sharon recalled one instance when Kristana gave Marcos Lopez $20,000. At Kristana Dekorian's request, Sharon Frederick picked up $20,000 in United States currency from the Eclipse. Because Kristana Dekorian did not want to give Marcos Lopez the money in $20 bills, Sharon Frederick stated that she prepared two bundles containing $10,000 each in $100 denomination. She placed the money bundles in a bag. Kristana told Sharon that he was going to meet Lopez to give the money to him. Sharon stated that she directly asked Kristana Dekorian, "So are you paying the sheriff?" Sharon Frederick stated Kristana Dekorian simply laughed, but never responded yes or no. Sharon Frederick could not remember the exact date when she gave Kristana Dekorian the $20,000, but believed it was sometime between February and March of 2024. She remembered it was during the time Kristana Dekorian was going to go out of town. Frederick gave Kristana the money at the car wash he owned in Leesburg, which is called Supreme Car Wash. Sharon Frederick believed Kristana Dekorian's wife, Romana Dekorian, was named as the owner of the car wash, but is never there. Your officiant's records check of sunbiz.org revealed Supreme Car Wash, LLC, 25024 North U.S. Highway 27, Leesburg, Florida, is owned by Proactive Genius, LLC, Series 2, which is owned and operated by Kristana Dekorian. Other than her testimony, Sharon Frederick had no evidence or supporting documents to back up her statements. She stated the police would have to look into Chris's emails and phone records because he's definitely talked to him all the time. Your officiants learned that Sharon Frederick went on to say that since she's been in custody, Kristana Dekorian called her sister, Tiffany Allen, wanting her to pass along a message to Sharon. The message relayed to Frederick was to not say anything to the police. Kristana told Allen that since the police took everything from him, including his money, the sheriff was going down too. Sharon Frederick stated the conversation with her sister took place when she was incarcerated at the Osceola County Jail a week before she was transferred to the Orange County Jail. Sharon Frederick believed Kristana Dekorian's resentment toward Lopez now stems from him not warning Kristana Dekorian of the raid, especially after Lopez led him to believe they were protected. So Kristana is actually also interfering with a witness. So there's just Sheldon Weatherholt interview. Your officiants learned that on September 12, 2024, HSI TFO Robert Pickett and MBI agent Kim Labonte interviewed Sheldon Weatherholt. The interview took place in a parking lot located at 2925 Traverse Trail, the Villages, Sumter County, Florida. Sheldon Weatherholt provided his Florida's driver's license as identification. MBI agent Labonte explained to Sheldon that he was free to leave and was free to stop talking at any time. Sheldon stated that he understood and was willing to talk with them. The interview was audio recorded and is summarized as follows. Sheldon Weatherholt indicated he was aware that he was being interviewed because of an investigation into Kristana Dekorian. He knows Kristana as Chris and first met him in 2018 when Kristana purchased the business Lucky Time in Inverness. Sheldon's sister was working at the Lucky Time. Sheldon said he provided construction-type work for the previous owner of Lucky Time, and Kristana asked him for advice on how to be above board with the gambling business to comply with what the state wanted. Sheldon stated he prided himself on being somebody who did everything the state would allow without crossing any lines, but things all changed when the fish tables came around. Sheldon said he would tell people to stay away from casino machines and online gambling because of money being transferred through wire and transfers across state lines. Sheldon believed this was federal stuff. He stated he advised Kristana to stick with what is on the computers and to make sure he did not have games that stimulate rolling reels, that it needed to be pre-reveal. Weatherholt stated that he provided Dekorian with a contract and who could provide machines. Kristana asked Sheldon if he could help Kristana open a new location along with obtaining a license and a lease to acquire the location. The new location was with a convenience store and a car wash in Leesburg, Florida. Sheldon said it was a year later when he discovered Kristana used the license and the lease to open the 4 units. Sheldon stated that he advised Kristana to follow the rules just like in Inverness. Otherwise, he would not be above board and would be in trouble. He stated he reached an agreement with Kristana where Sheldon would be paid $300 a month for the use of his LLC, SW Fusion LLC, on the lease, once the gaming room and the car wash were profitable. Sheldon stated that he dissolved SW Fusion LLC in 2022 when he discovered Kristana opened a third store in Bellevue Players. Kristana utilized SW Fusion LLC to open Bellevue Players. Sheldon stated he did not know why Kristana did not want to put his name on any of the paperwork for his businesses. He never discussed with Kristana why Kristana would not put his own name on any of the paperwork or lease agreements. Well, that's pretty obvious, Sheldon. He knew he was getting into illegal stuff. He did not want to be attached to any of this stuff on paper. Sheldon did not know how Kristana got the lease for the Players Bellevue signed without his knowledge. Sheldon advised Kristana also owns the Eclipse Social Club. Kristana told him that he is friends with the sheriff there, and the sheriff was only going to allow one room to open there, and that was Kristana's establishment. He stated Kristana showed him the location of the Eclipse Social Club before it opened. He told him it was going to be a hookah lounge and that it used to be a Mexican restaurant. Sheldon said he and Kristana met with the owner of the building in 2022 and described the owner as an Indian male. Sheldon Weatherholt asked the agents if they knew about Kristana Dekorian's lawyer, Kelly Mathis. Mathis is the one who would put the paperwork together and then send it to them for signatures. At the end of 2022, Sheldon told Kelly Mathis he did not want his name associated with anything anymore due to things getting out of control, as he believed that they were not doing things legally. At one point, your officiants learned that Kelly Mathis sent Kristana a letter from the state of Florida listing what is not allowed in the gaming business. So yeah, it definitely sounds as if Sheldon may have been slightly, trying to, get these gambling things going, but he was trying to remain above board to not get into trouble, especially on the federal level. So, I mean, I am curious if they're making a deal with Sheldon, because I know he's spoken with the media the most so far that I have seen, at least on the interviews. Sheldon Weatherholt asked the agents if they knew about Krishna Dekorian's lawyer, Kelly Mathis. Kelly Mathis is the one who would put the paperwork together and then send it off to them for signatures. At the end of 2022, Sheldon told Kelly Mathis he did not want his name associated with anything anymore due to things getting out of control, as he believed they were not doing things legally. At one point, your officiants learned that Kelly Mathis sent Kristana Dekorian a letter from the state of Florida listing what is not allowed in the gaming business. Sheldon Weatherholt explained that he and Kristana Dekorian discussed the issues, and Kristana Dekorian's response was, "Everyone's doing it." At that point, Sheldon Weatherholt stated that he did not want anything to do with the gaming businesses anymore and did not believe the $300 a month was worth it. Kristana then promised Weatherholt other things like 10%, like a 10% share, but Weatherholt stated he never received that from Kristana Dekorian. Sheldon said after 2022, Kristana told him he would no longer be paying him since everything was out of his name. The only thing remaining in Sheldon Weatherholt's name was the utilities, but he did not pay those bills. Sharon Frederick paid all of the utility bills. Your officiants learned that agents asked Sheldon Weatherholt if he could explain the time they acquired the building that would eventually become the Eclipse Social Club in more detail. Sheldon Weatherholt said Kristana Dekorian decided to lease the building and started out as a hookah lounge. Sheldon Weatherholt set up the power account for the building utilizing his company, SW Fusion LLC. Both he and Kristana Dekorian signed the lease, and he thinks Kristana Dekorian pays it. Sheldon Weatherholt said he has never paid for any of the leases or bills, nor has he ever delivered any money to any person or deposited any money into a bank account. See, these people are just ridiculous to me. Why would you allow them to put your name on things, Sheldon, and then of course you have Sharon who's putting money in her own accounts and then moving them around. I mean, it's like, geez, the intelligence level is lacking here. Sheldon Weatherholt said the last time he spoke with Kristana Dekorian was on the day the search warrants were executed, and Kristana Dekorian tried to implicate Weatherholt by saying he was the owner when Kristana Dekorian was speaking to him on the phone via speakerphone. Your officiants confirmed that Sheldon Weatherholt stated Kristana Dekorian is the property owner of the properties where the Players Club Leesburg, the Palace Claremont, and a warehouse Claremont that Kristana Dekorian uses to store gambling machines are located. Sheldon Weatherholt said all of the fish tables come from China and the other gambling machines come from vendors. He only knew of one vendor named Rich who worked out of Port Richey, Florida. He did not think that person was still in the business. Sheldon Weatherholt said there's no manipulation of the machines that they use. The machines pay out at 80 to 90%. Your officiants learned that Sheldon Weatherholt stated Kristana Dekorian paid him his $300 monthly fee once a year and a lump sum of $3,600. He was only paid for 2 years of service, and it was in U.S. currency. What a bunch of pennies for all this risk, you know? Weatherholt stated he used the proceeds to pay his own bills. Kristana Dekorian also gave him $800 one time to help him fix his car. Sheldon Weatherholt said he makes $17 per hour working for Mission Storage, and he and his wife live a modest life. Sheldon Weatherholt said if the utility bills did not get paid, then he would get an email to his email address. He would then take a screenshot or picture of the message and send it to Sharon Frederick. His He first met Sharon Frederick at the Players Club, and Kristana Dekorian told him Sharon Frederick is the person who would be taking care of the bills. Your officiants learned that when asked if he had knowledge of how the Eclipse Social Club went from a proposed hookah lounge to Kristana being allowed to open a casino, Sheldon explained that Kristana told him he was friends with the sheriff in the county, and the sheriff was going to allow one electronic game room. Weatherholt stated that Kristana said the sheriff would allow it as long as they were not called out for any problems and no law enforcement resources were tied up with the business. Sheldon Weatherholt explained that at one time Lake County allowed up to 25 game rooms to operate in the county. The businesses had to pay the county for a license, which the county ended up refunding once they canceled the licenses. Weatherholt stated that he did not get a refund because none of the business licenses were in his name. According to Weatherholt, attorney Kelly Mathis handled all of the license applications and reapplications. During this interview, your officiants learned that Sheldon Weatherholt said he first found out the Eclipse Social Club was not going to be a hookah lounge and was going to be a casino right before it opened in 2022. This was the only time he was ever at the Eclipse Social Club. Sheldon Weatherholt was able to positively identify people and locations from photographs the agents showed to him. Your officiants learned that he previously identified Kristana Dekorian's brown Toyota Tundra, Ramona Dekorian, Ricky Lynn, Sharon Frederick, the Players Palace in Claremont, the Players Club in Leesburg, the Eclipse Social Club in Kissimmee, and the Warehouse in Claremont. Sheldon later stated that he went to the Eclipse Social Club on 2 occasions. The first was when he and Kristana signed the lease, and the second was when they did the walkthrough just before the business opened. Sheldon explained that the only leases he signed were for the Players Club and the Eclipse Social Club. All other involvement by him was limited to utility accounts. When he heard about the search warrants, he went to change the locks at the location in the Villages. Sheldon Weatherholt believes Kristana Dekorian went to that location the night before the search warrants were served and cleared out all of the gaming machines. Think he got a heads up from some law enforcement friends? I think so. Sheldon Weatherholt appeared hesitant to admit or accept responsibility for his involvement in setting up the Villages location. Initially, Sheldon Weatherholt stated his name was not on the lease, and he did not have any knowledge of it being on the lease. When confronted with this inconsistency, he admitted he did have knowledge of his name being on the lease and apologized for not being truthful. Sheldon Weatherholt was asked if there was anything else from his prior statements he wanted to change that might not have been truthful. Sheldon said, Kristana Dekorian is the guy who has all the contacts and the top of the food chain. He described Sharon Frederick as the peon who pays the bills and works for Kristana Dekorian. Sheldon then showed the agents a photo from his cellular phone showing the locks were changed at the Villages location on August 9th, 2024. Sheldon Weatherholt stated Kristana Dekorian called him using Rachel's cell phone. This call took place after the execution of the search warrants at the Eclipse Social Club, Players Club, and Dekorian's residence. Rachel was a security guard for the business. Kristana was crying and told him he was broke and penniless, that the police took everything from him. Sheldon Weatherholt told Kristana Dekorian he was very sorry, but tried to warn him and he didn't listen, that he hurt a lot of people and screwed a lot of people. Sheldon explained that he was angry at Kristana and is still angry at him. He believed he received a text from Kristana's new phone, but he did not answer it. Sheldon described the structure of the organization as Kristana Dekorian being the owner, Sharon Frederick overseeing collecting the money and paying the bills, and himself as the person who establishes the utilities. Your officiants learned that it was Sheldon Weatherholt's understanding that his name was used in the event Kristana Dekorian became involved in legal troubles due to the gambling business, and Weatherholt understood that he was the owner for that reason. Again, dumb, dumb, and dumb. Carol Coate interview. Your officiants learned that on September 17, 2024, HSI TFO Robert Pickett and FBI agent Kim Labonte interviewed Carol Coate. The interview was recorded, and prior to the interview, TFO Pickett explained to Carol Coate that she was free to leave and or stop talking at any time. Carol Coate acknowledged she understood, and the interview commenced. The interview was conducted in the parking lot at 2925 Traverse Trail, The Villages, Florida. Your officiants learned that Carol Coate presented her Florida driver's license, proof of identification. The interview was reviewed by your officiants and summarized as follows. Carol Coates stated she first met Kristana Dekorian approximately 6 years ago. One of her friends worked at the Players Club in Inverness and told her they were looking to hire someone. The friend told her to come in for a job and she would be interviewed by the owner. Carol Coates met with Kristana Dekorian at the Players Club and was hired as a cashier around Thanksgiving of 2018. Players Club in Inverness closed, so she started working at Kristana Dekorian's location in Leesburg in 2019. In January of 2020, she said Kristana Dekorian asked her to start doing some bookkeeping for the business. She was asked to do this because she kept finding issues with employee paperwork, so she created spreadsheets for the paperwork and the money from the machines. She said the manager of the Leesburg location at that time was named Jasmine. Kristana then offered her more money for keeping the books for 2 of his stores. He offered her additional $300 per week to keep the books, plus her regular pay of $13 per hour. All of her earnings were paid in cash. The 2 stores she kept the books for were the Players Club in Leesburg and the Palace in Claremont. Wow, what cheap labor, $13 an hour. Carol Coates said the clubs closed temporarily due to COVID in 2020. When they reopened around April or May of 2020, she did not return to working in person at the casinos. She said she would drive to the casinos every Monday to pick up paperwork. She would then bring the paperwork home to go through everything. Once she finished going through the paperwork, she would prepare a report and send it to Kristana Dekorian. Carol said that when Kristana added the Eclipse Social Club in Osceola County, she told him Kissimmee was too far for her to drive. Kristana offered an additional $100 to drive to Kissimmee. She also received $500 per week now for handling the paperwork for 3 stores. Carol explained that Kristana Dekorian sold 2 stores, Jungle Hut in the Villages. Initially, she did the bookkeeping for Kristana Dekorian and the new owner, Ricky, but then went back to just doing the bookkeeping for Kristana Dekorian, covering Leesburg and Kissimmee. She said she was instructed to send the bookkeeping information to Kristana Dekorian by email to frontiergamesllc@gmail.com. She described her job as reviewing the paperwork generated by the employees and comparing that to the information in the machines. The employees provided payout tickets to her as verification of the payout. She would sometimes have to figure out why the numbers did not match the information from the machines. The employees had to verify the information for the machines every 12 hours when their shifts changed. The employees were required to verify the information in the machine by taking a photograph of the machine's screen with the cellular phone assigned to that location. Your officiants learned that Coates stated each location had a cellular phone assigned to it that was referred to as the store phone. She stated the employees verified the information on the fish tables, but it was only Kristana, Sharon, Nate, or herself who verified the information on the FireLink machines. Carol Coates stated initially that Kristana Dekorian would visit the stores every day to verify information, but eventually he designated the responsibility to the manager, Jasmine. Jasmine was fired at some point, and Sharon Frederick took over verifying the information on the FireLink machines. She said when the Eclipse Social Club opened, only Kristana Dekorian verified the machines for 4 months. After the initial 4 months, Sharon Frederick took over verification of the machines. Carol Coates said she did not handle any of the payments for bills because that was Sharon Frederick's responsibility. Coates stated her only responsibility was bookkeeping and keeping track of what was owed for utilities. The amount due for utilities was given to her by Sharon Frederick. She explained that all the information from the gaming businesses were sent to a WhatsApp text group. She would then take that information and prepare a spreadsheet report for Kristana. If there was a shortage that she could not figure out, she would then notify Kristana, who would responded, "Find it, I need my money." Yeah. Carol Coates explained that there was a specific WhatsApp text group titled Bills Paid, where Sharon would send the photographs of the utility bills so Carol Coates would have the amounts. She also stated Kristana Dekorian's wife, Ramona Dekorian, was a member of this group. She does not know exactly how they handle the money at the business. Your officiants learned that Coates said that she would only tell Sharon how much money the businesses should have according to the paperwork she had. Carol Coates explained each business had 1 or 2 phones assigned to them. The employees of the store were instructed to take photographs of the customer's payout slip and send it to the text group designated for that store. The phones were strictly for business use related to payouts and gaming operations. WhatsApp was the primary form of communication they used for business. Employees were not allowed to use their personal phones, but this did occasionally occur. Coates believed the phones were iPhone SEs in either a black or Dolce & Gabbana branded phone case. If a phone went missing, whichever the employee was on the shift at that time would have to pay a portion of the replacement phone. Carol Coates said she would let Sharon Frederick know if there was any issues with the money numbers and let her handle it. She stated that Sharon would often cover the difference of the shortage out of her own money. All the employees were told when they were hired if there was a shortage that it would come out of their pay. She said there was an incident when Players Club came up $11,000 short. Kristana Dekorian came into the store cussing and screaming over the shortage of money. Coates said that she told him she doesn't handle the money and that she only reports on what the number should be there. She described Kristana Dekorian as a very greedy man, and for a while he would have her in tears every day. Carol Coates said she was only able to continue working there because Sharon Frederick was able to interact with Kristana Dekorian, which then limited Coates' interaction with him. She said Kristana Dekorian always told the employees they were good. They were golden when they asked about the business and law enforcement. She did not have much information on the licenses or any legal issues. He sounds like a great guy to work for, doesn't he? Carol Coates stated that on August 27, 2024, she received a phone call from Kristana Dekorian. The call came from Ramona Dekorian's phone number, 321-388-3620, and was received around 6:41 p.m. Coates stated that Kristana Dekorian instructed her to delete everything, all the spreadsheets, all the emails, all the store phones, or anything to do with the stores. He told her he was in a lot of trouble. More trouble than her or Sharon Frederick. He wanted Carol Coates to meet him to give her the final paycheck. She said she did not feel comfortable meeting him because she was concerned that he would try to get her to turn on Sharon Frederick. Coates explained that she had heard that Kristana Dekorian was trying to get the employees to tell the police Sharon Frederick owned the casinos, not him. She said that she did not delete anything. She kept all the emails between her and Kristana Dekorian and the spreadsheets. Carol Coates stated that Sheldon Weatherholt's name was on the business licenses. He was the manager of the Leesburg location when she first started working there. Coates said that she caught him stealing and Kristana Dekorian fired him. Weatherholt came back to work a couple of times after that but was fired again. She was not sure whose name the bills were in, but she knew the business licenses were in Sheldon Weatherholt's company name, SW Fusion LLC. Carol Coates said she asked Sharon Frederick why the license was in Sheldon Weatherholt's name. Sharon told her not to ask questions she didn't want the answers to. Coates said she only handled money on 2 occasions. Both times either Sharon or Kristana gave her cash and instructed her to get cashier's checks from her personal account to pay the rent for the village's gaming business location. Kristana Dekorian would send all the receipts and paperwork to his actual accountant when it came time to do anything with taxes. She does not know who the accountant was for his businesses. Carol Coates explained that each store had a specific amount of money that had to be maintained at each location. The Players Club in Leesburg kept $30,000 on hand, and the Eclipse Social Club maintained $100,000. At the end of the day, the amount over that was considered the take. This amount was collected by Sharon Frederick and used to pay the bills and payroll. After the bills and payroll were paid, the remainder of that amount of money was delivered to Kristana Dekorian. Carol Coates was asked to view photographs of the people and locations. She was able to positively identify photos of Kristana Dekorian, Ramona Dekorian, Ricky Lynn, Sharon Frederick, Sharon Weatherholt, Lutz Cedino Figueroa, Sean Wilkerson, the Players Club Leesburg, and the Eclipse Social Club Kissimmee. Carol Coates provided access to the Google Drive that contained the accounting files spreadsheet she created and maintained for the past 6 years. She also provided the email address and password. Kristana Dekorian interview. On October 3rd, 2024, Kristana Dekorian, along with counsel, agreed to a sworn interview regarding his involvement in this investigation. The officiants learned that Kristana Dekorian became involved in the gaming business between 2016 to 2017. Kristana Dekorian reports to be Hindu and attended a temple where he met and formed a friendship with Narayan Dutt Harpul. Harpul was in the restaurant business. Kristana Dekorian eventually met Narayan's son, Vic Dutt Harpul, who introduced Kristana Dekorian to the gaming business. Kristana Dekorian stated Vic Harpul's casino was named Hotspot. He believed the Hotspot was registered as an LLC named Lake County Copy and Print. Kristana Dekorian said he went to the Hotspot and observed people gambling on fish tables and slot machines. Kristana explained that he had been fired from his job, so he started working for Vic Harpul in the gaming business. After about a year, Dekorian stated he decided to enter a partnership with Vic Harpul in a store named Hot Shots. He said the store was registered under the business name Lake County Copy and Print. Makes you want to think it's like an office store to make, copy prints and all that sort of stuff, but that's not at all what it was. Decorian stated that his role in the partnership was to set up and operate the store in exchange for 30% of the profit once it opened. Cristando Decorian said he made approximately $500 per day while at Hot Shots. He admitted the store was a gambling business and had about 20 sweepstakes machines, 4 fish tables, and 7 slot machines. The machines were played by putting cash into the machines and either winning or losing cash based on the result of the bet a person made. Cristando Decorian said he ran that business for approximately 6 to 8 months before Vic Harpool sold it and asked Cristando Decorian to train the new owners. He said Vic Harpool paid him $15,000 for this. Vic Harpool asked him to locate a new place for them. Your officiants learned that Cristando Decorian found a new location in Inverness, Florida, called Lucky's. Cristando Decorian stated he had negotiated a purchase price of $15,000 for the new business. Vic Harpool did not want to contribute to the purchase price, but still wanted 30% of the profits. The new location did not have any gambling machines. Decorian told your officiants that Vic Harpool was supposed to get the machines from Texas and provide them to the store. Cristando Decorian stated that he met Sheldon Weatherholt once he took over the new location in Inverness. Sheldon Weatherholt had been the manager of Lucky's and was the owner on paper. He was paid a salary and 20% of the profits. Cristando Decorian renamed the business to Players Club, and it was open for approximately a year and a half until Vic Harpool removed all the gaming machines out of the location. During the time he had the location in Inverness, 2018 to 2019, Cristando Decorian said he purchased the Players Club in Leesburg and the Palace in Claremont. Decorian stated that those gambling rooms were owned by him, but on paper it showed Sheldon Weatherholt as the owner through the company entity SW Fusion LLC. I reviewed the utility bills for this business, identified the account holder as SW Fusion LLC, care of Sheldon Weatherholt. Cristando Decorian stated he paid all his bills with the proceeds from the gambling rooms. He paid the vendors first because all the gambling machines in the business were leased. In the beginning, Cristando Decorian stated he was paying his vendors 50% of the proceeds from their gambling machines. He stated he was leasing the gambling machines from Vic Harpool and an entity called Allied Veterans of the World. In 2019, he had 3 gambling establishments and netted approximately $20,000 per month from these illegal gambling businesses. He stated his manager, Sheldon Weatherholt, would store the cash from the machines in a safe daily. Cristando Decorian stated he would pick up the cash proceeds from the stores on a weekly basis. Occasionally, he would deposit between $1,500 to $2,000 into his bank account. In 2019 or 2020, Cristando Decorian stated he purchased the Players Club in Bellevue, Florida, and listed Sheldon Weatherholt as the owner through SW Fusion LLC. Sheldon Weatherholt received 20% of the proceeds from that business. He said he had a license from the city of Bellevue for an electronic game room. The cost of the license was based on how many games they had in the establishment. Your officiants learned that Cristando Decorian purchased another gambling establishment in the Villages called Players Palace. The business was also registered under Sheldon Weatherholt through SW Fusion LLC. In 2019, he was making approximately $60,000 per month from the proceeds of all the gambling businesses. At this point, he was still paying the vendors of the machines a percentage of the revenue from the gambling machines. During the interview, Cristando Decorian stated he purchased the Jungle Hut in Tavares, Florida in 2021. He said the Jungle Hut was also registered under SW Fusion LLC, which showed Sheldon Weatherholt as registered agent and title manager. The Eclipse Social Club. Following the decision about Cristando Decorian's gambling businesses, Cristando Decorian then talked about the opening of his latest store, Eclipse Social Club, located at 4561 West Earl Bronson Memorial Highway, Kissimmee, Florida 34746. Cristando Decorian stated he owned and opened the Eclipse Social Club with a partner, Marcos R. Lopez. However, like the other stores he owned, the Eclipse Social Club was in Sheldon Weatherholt's name. According to sunbiz.org, your officiants confirmed that the Eclipse Social Club is under the name of SW Fusion Social Club LLC, with Sheldon Weatherholt being listed with the title of manager. Cristando Decorian stated he opened the Eclipse Social Club with Marcus Lopez as a silent partner. Yeah. These guys are trying to be sneaky, I tell you what. But it all comes out. During his sworn interview, Cristando Decorian explained that his relationship with Marcos Lopez began at the Players Club store in Leesburg in Lake County. In 2019, Daniel Pagan, a security guard at the store, introduced Marcos Lopez to Cristando Decorian. Pagan told him that he knows Marcos Lopez, who was campaigning to be sheriff of Osceola County at the time, and he would like to introduce them. Pagan lived in Kissimmee and personally knew Marcos Lopez. One day, Decorian stated that Marcos Lopez entered the Players Club with his campaign manager, and Lopez told Cristando Decorian he was running for sheriff of Osceola County. Cristando Decorian could not remember his manager's name, but said he and Lopez walked around the store and played some of the machines. Lopez told Decorian he saw nothing wrong or illegal with the business. Decorian and Lopez then sat down and talked for approximately 30 minutes. Again, Lopez emphasized he was running for sheriff and seeking donations for his campaign. Because that's not shady at all, huh? During their conversation, Marcos Lopez told Cristando that he did not mind going into a partnership with something like this in his county. Ugh. Tell you. The more and more you were learning on this, guys, the more and more we're learning. Cristando Decorian said he donated a total of $5,000 to Marcos Lopez's campaign through Pagan. Dirty, dirty money. Your officiants learned that Marcos Lopez wanted Decorian to go through Daniel Pagan for anything related to campaign contributions and was told that it could not exceed $1,000. The following week, Cristando Decorian wrote a check for $1,000 from his redacted account and gave it to Dan Pagan. Cristando Decorian believed he made this check payable to Lopez's campaign, but was uncertain. Over the course of time, Cristando Decorian stated he gave Dan Pagan an additional $4,000 in cash for Marcos Lopez. Lopez and Decorian exchanged phone numbers, and their friendship strengthened. Note, your officiants learned that a search of the campaign records through the Osceola Supervisor Elections website showed that Daniel Pagan made a $1,000 check donation to Marcos Lopez's campaign on August 21st, 2019. Your officiants confirmed that Daniel Pagan is currently a sworn deputy employed by the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. I'm curious if he's still there now, after all this. Your officiants learned that Marcos Lopez called Cristando Decorian at times to invite him to campaign events. Lopez would often ask Decorian to contribute more money toward his campaign, claiming that his campaign funds were running low. 2 months after they met, they began to meet for dinner at local restaurants. Sometimes Cristando Decorian stated he brought his family along and Lopez brought his wife. As their friendship grew, so did their trust in one another. After a campaign event and dinner, Decorian stated that he walked out into the parking lot with Lopez and gave Lopez an additional $2,000 in cash in a brown paper bag. Lopez opened his trunk, and Decorian stated that he placed the bag inside. At that time, Decorian believed Lopez's vehicle was a white Kia, unknown model. Decorian stated he would typically take a private walk with Lopez after a campaign event and give him cash contributions. Decorian stated Lopez would usually put the cash in his car, sometimes in the trunk. Cristando Decorian stated he would give Marcos Lopez the money in a manila envelope or a brown paper bag. Cristando Decorian stated on one occasion, Marcos Lopez was doing a campaign event for the Indian community inside the Osceola County Sheriff's Office complex. You know, that is just so disgusting. It really is. A month or two later, Lopez introduced Decorian to a female real estate agent of Asian descent named Kate. Lopez told Decorian that Kate was a very good friend of his and had a lot of contacts. Lopez gave Decorian Kate's phone number and told Decorian to call her. Your officiants learned that Cristando Decorian eventually met Kate at an Asian restaurant on Colonial Drive in Orlando. Over dinner, Kate told Cristando Decorian that she wanted to go into the gaming business with him and that she could also provide gaming machines. Your officiants learned they discussed making a shared contribution to Marcos Lopez's campaign for sheriff. Cristando Decorian gave Kate $2,500 cash, and Kate wrote a check for $5,000. Kate stated, "This is our contribution to him." I think they mean the next sheriff of Osceola County. Your officiants later identified Kate as Ying Zhang of Kylan Realty, located at 5168 West Colonial Drive, Orlando in Orange County, Florida. This is the one that they have not arrested. She's still wanted, and I think she's out of the country. According to the Osceola County Supervisor of Elections website, Kylan Realty provided a $1,000 check to Marcos Lopez's campaign on August 7, 2019. On March 10, 2020, Kate Zhang contributed $1,000 to the Marcos Lopez campaign. Kristana Dekorian said he went into business with Kate in 2020. Kristana stated that they expanded the Players Club Palace in the Villages. Kristana Dekorian explained they bought the room next to the Players Palace for $300,000. Your officiants learned that Kate helped set up the expansion of the Players Palace. The Players Palace was a 50-50 split business with Kate. Kristana Dekorian stated Kate put up $150,000 to start the business, and Kate went with Kristana Dekorian to buy the business from the previous owner named Ray. Kristana Dekorian stated Kate was bringing in the gaming machines from a connection she had in China, which is probably where she is now. After Marcos Lopez won the primary election in August 2020, Kristana Dekorian stated that he continued to donate to Lopez's campaign for a total of about $6,000 cash that was paid in $2,000 increments before the general election in November 2020. Kristana Dekorian did not keep records or receipt of the cash payments. Of course not. Why would he do that? Your officiants learned that Lopez instructed and warned Kristana Dekorian not to tell anyone or let anyone see him accepting cash. As the friendship evolved, they talked about going into business together. Kristana Dekorian stated Marcos Lopez expected to receive money for connecting him with Kate. So nothing is for free with these people involved in racketeering and all these gambling illegal operations. Kristana Dekorian stated Marcos Lopez warned him not to tell anyone about the cash donations and never to give him cash when someone else was around because that could cause a problem with him. Gee, you mean you might get in trouble and get arrested? Gee. Kristana Dekorian stated he and Lopez already schooled Dekorian how to operate. Kristana Dekorian stated the cash donations to Marcos Lopez were profits from his gambling businesses, aka dirty money. Dekorian stated that Marcos Lopez told him if they were going to go into business together, then he would have to teach Dekorian these codes, and Dekorian would have to follow the guidelines of these codes. Dekorian stated after Marcos Lopez won the primary, he told Kristana Dekorian that he was going to be the most powerful man in Osceola County. Now this should all piss off everybody, every resident of Osceola County. You really should. Marcos Lopez decided that he wanted to go into business with Kristana Dekorian and open a gambling business in Osceola County. In exchange for his partnership, Dekorian stated that Lopez said he could provide law enforcement protections. As such, Dekorian understood that Lopez expected to receive money from Kristana Dekorian for that protection. So hey, I can provide you protection if you pay the right amount. Yeah. Money talks. That's what they say. Your officiants learned that after Marcos Lopez won the general election in 2020, he told Kristana Dekorian to find a location for a gaming business. Kristana Dekorian stated that he found a site for rent that was near the Osceola County Sheriff's Office on State Road 192. Kristana Dekorian considered that spot and sent a text to Marcos Lopez describing its location. Marcos Lopez replied, "No, that can't work because it's too close for comfort." Gee, you mean they might actually notice if I wander around this illegal gambling joint? They might know I'm connected to something dirty? No, you got to get it further out. Come on now. Kristana Dekorian stated he then found another location and texted it to Marcos Lopez, who responded he thought the location was in the city, meaning within the city of Kissimmee. Kristana said he understood that meant Lopez couldn't help him there. Time passed and Kristana received another call from Lopez who said, "I got something for you." Marcos Lopez sent Kristana Dekorian a text message that included a name, phone number, and address and wrote, "Call me right away. We did a raid and I shut that place down. It's ours." Lopez wanted Kristana Dekorian to contact and set up a meeting with the landlord. Kristana Dekorian was told the previous business was a nightclub where a shooting once occurred. Kristana Dekorian could not provide the name of the business or the date of the alleged shooting. Your officiants learned that the owner-landlord was Gurvinder Singh Dillon, who Kristana Dekorian and his employee Sharon Frederick referred to as Mr. Dillon. Kristana Dekorian stated that he signed a rental agreement with Dylan and named the store Eclipse Social Club. Kristana Dekorian said the Eclipse Social Club opened in June of 2022. He made his first payment from the Eclipse Social Club to Marcus Lopez in August of 2022. Dekorian stated that the first payment was $15,000 in cash, and that he made the payment during a meeting at the Bahama Breeze restaurant. Kristana Dekorian stated the payments to Marcos Lopez continued every month after that. The payments were in cash, which normally were put into a manila envelope. Dekorian stated that these cash payments to Lopez ranged from a minimum of $10,000 to a maximum of $35,000, all of which came from the proceeds of the gaming business. Kristana Dekorian said he paid Marcos Lopez a payment of $35,000 in July of 2023. Dekorian stated he never asked Marcos Lopez what he did with the money, but he did notice that Marcos Lopez upgraded his wife's vehicle and bought a new house. Dekorian stated he paid him twice at Lopez's old house and once at Lopez's new house. The payment at Marcos Lopez's new house was for a total of $20,000, and Dekorian provided the envelope in cash and placed it in Marcos Lopez's barn. So you can't tell me that Lopez's wife didn't know about all this. She got a new car and they got a new house. So come on now. Come on. Their life got extremely better. During the interview, officiants learned that Marcos Lopez also visited Eclipse a few times. During a visit, Lopez introduced the idea of opening a second location. Lopez stated that he wanted his girlfriend to go into partnership with them in the second gaming business location. Lopez also introduced the idea of Kristana buying a smoke shop and or an LED digital display business. Dekorian stated that Marcos Lopez wanted his unnamed Venezuelan girlfriend, who was also a real estate agent, to manage the new business. That just brings a whole new light to someone. And I'm wondering if she's mentioned here. Dekorian stated he also gave Lopez money when his girlfriend was present. In total, Kristana Dekorian claimed he has paid Marcos Lopez between $600,000 and $700,000 in cash since 2020. Dekorian stated the final time Kristana Dekorian paid Marcos Lopez any money was at a rodeo in July of 2024. Kristana Dekorian stated he paid Marcos Lopez $15,000 at this event. During analysis of Kristana Dekorian's phone messages, your officiants reviewed a message between Kristana Dekorian and Marcos Lopez's phone, discussing a request from Marcos Lopez, asking Kristana Dekorian if he could make the event and help at the event. Your officiants learned during the interview that Kristana called Marcos Lopez the same day of the search warrant on August 27, 2024, to ask Lopez what was going on. Dekorian stated that Marcos Lopez claimed he knew nothing about it. Kristana Dekorian also asked for Kate's phone number so he could call her and inform her that all of their machines had been removed by law enforcement. Kristana said Marcos Lopez has not tried to contact him since that phone call on the day of the search warrant. Yeah. I'm sure he was like, oh dude, I think we're in trouble. During the interview, Kristana was shown a photo of an Osceola County Sheriff's deputy that was recovered from his phone during the execution of a search warrant for that device. Kristana said he took the photograph of the deputy with his phone and sent it to Lopez because Marcos Lopez had instructed him to contact him anytime a deputy showed up at Eclipse so that he could be ahead of the game. Kristana said anytime a deputy showed up at Eclipse, he called Marcos Lopez to provide him with the details of that encounter. As a result, Kristana Dekorian stated he believed Marcos Lopez would then contact that deputy and tell them to back off. Your officiants learned that Kristana Dekorian recalled one instance where he had a problem with a deputy who responded to the Eclipse and had requested to see Kristana Dekorian's business license. Kristana stated he called Marcos Lopez, and Lopez told Kristana that the deputy had no right to ask for the business license. Kristana stated he believed Marcos Lopez called that deputy and told him to stop. Oh boy. During the interview, Kristana Dekorian was questioned about another photo recovered from his phone that depicted a white male entering the Eclipse Social Club. The photo was part of a text string between Kristana Dekorian and Marcos Lopez's known phone number. And it looks like phone number, this photo here on the right, obtained from Kristana Dekorian's cellular device between a message between Dekorian and Marcos Lopez. So you can't really see it here, it's super dark, but And here's a message. Kristana Dekorian stated in the message, "Do you know this guy? He said he's a cop." Kristana said he could not recall the photo without seeing the text string. The photo was not available during the proffer interview, so the interview continued. Kristana was asked if he and Marcos Lopez discussed a possible investigation or undercover activity at the Eclipse. Kristana replied, it was his understanding that Lopez would inform him of any law enforcement activity. In support of that statement, Kristana Dekorian recalled a day in August 2023 when Marcos Lopez called him and asked him to meet. When they met, Marcos Lopez informed Dekorian that Governor Ron DeSantis had just sent him an email about an investigation regarding game rooms in Osceola County. There was no information about which game room locations are being investigated. Kristana Dekorian said Marcos Lopez stated he just wanted him to know what was happening. When Marcos Lopez arrived at the Eclipse, he was in his county vehicle, which Kristana Dekorian described as a black GMC Sport utility vehicle. Kristana Dekorian entered the vehicle and Marcos Lopez drove around to the back of the building for their discussion. So now he's driving around county-owned vehicles doing illegal business. Dekorian stated that Marcos Lopez reassured him and told him not to worry about any possible investigation. Your officiants learned that Kristana and Marcos Lopez often communicated in code when it was time to deliver Marcos Lopez's payment. Marcos Lopez would send Kristana Dekorian a text message suggesting they meet for dinner or elsewhere. When Kristana received those messages, he stated he knew it was going to be time to make a payment to Lopez. He said Marcos Lopez visited the Eclipse Social Club approximately 5 times. Marcos Lopez showed up twice, while in the Osceola County Sheriff's Office uniform and other times in plain clothes. Kristana Dekorian said he also had been inside Marcos Lopez's vehicle to give him money. Kristana explained once they drove and parked in the back, and the other time he was driven to a law enforcement call for service while he was in Marcos Lopez's vehicle. I'm telling you, every bit of this should annoy Osceola County taxpayers and voters. Every single bit of it. Every single bit. It should annoy everyone anyway, because corruption, I mean, it's bad enough that these other people are involved in this gambling, illegal gambling. But, you have a man that ran for sheriff and was reelected even after the first time. On October 24, 2024, FDLE Inspector James Frankwitz gathered basic background information on Daniel Pagan. Your officiants learned that Daniel Pagan was a security guard working at the Players Club in Leesburg, Florida. According to Dekorian, Pagan introduced Marcos Lopez to Kristana Dekorian. Your officiants learned through law enforcement databases that Daniel Pagan has a Florida driver's license and resides in Harmony, Florida. It was also determined that he is currently employed as a deputy by the Osceola County Sheriff's Office and has been since December 13, 2021. On January 9, 2025, Inspectors James Frankwitz and David Snowden met with Christopher Rumberg and obtained a sworn statement. The statement is summarized as follows. Rumberg started his law enforcement career in 1980 as a sheriff's deputy in Louisiana. He then moved to Florida, where he continued his law enforcement career as an Orange County Sheriff's Office deputy and later as a major case investigator. While with Orange County, Rumberg worked in the Metropolitan Bureau of Investigation as an undercover agent and with the Drug Enforcement Agency Task Force. Rumberg stated that he started his employment with Osceola County Sheriff's Office sometime in 2019. On September 20th, 2022, at approximately 7:15 a.m., Rumberg decided to conduct a business bar check at the Eclipse, which was previously a hookah bar. Rumberg stated he took other deputies inside with him so they can gain experience in conducting business bar checks. Rumberg entered the Eclipse with Deputy Charlie Ryan, Deputy Adam Jones, and Deputy Josh Diaz. Rumberg said it was basically an electronic casino. The Eclipse had at least 2 rooms full of electronic gaming machines. He discovered the Eclipse did not have an occupational license. There were 2 armed security guards on the site, but there was no manager. Yeah, that's real suspicious. That is for sure. Rumberg realized that the business had multiple violations, so he told the guards that they had to shut down the place. Rumberg completed an information incident report under OCSO case number 22I104996. While there, one of the security guards called the owner on his cell phone and handed the phone to Rumberg. Rumberg stated he did not get the owner's name, but was told, "You don't know who I am, but I know Sheriff Lopez." Gee, sounds like a threat to me, doesn't it? The owner then told Rumberg that Sheriff Marcos Lopez was on his phone, and he was going to call Sheriff Marcos Lopez directly. When Rumbaugh informed the owner that he needed to shut down the place, the owner said he was very good friends with Sheriff Lopez, and he had his direct cell phone number. See, a good cop, a good police officer would be like, okay, yeah. Rumberg stated that Sheriff Marcos Lopez knew everything that was going on there and that the sheriff was good with it and saw no problem. The owner warned Rumbaugh that if they were forced to close, they would be back open. Rumbaugh then warned the owner if they reopened without first getting a business license that he was going to return and make arrests. Rumbaugh stated he could not tell the ethnicity of the owner from his voice, but remembered it was a male who was possibly sounded Hispanic. Rumbaugh stated his body cam was not working, but his side of the phone conversation was recorded on Deputy Charlie Ryan's body cam. Rumbaugh stated Deputy Ryan was standing next to him when he was on the phone with the owner. Rumbaugh stated he communicated his encounter at the Eclipse to both his Sergeant Brian Bossy and Lieutenant Edgar Olson. Rumbaugh remembered drafting an email about his findings and sending it to Sergeant Kevin Calves, the supervisor of the Osceola County Investigative Bureau section, who would also be supervisor over the OCSO MBI Task Force Officer, TFO. Rumbaugh conducted his own research on the Eclipse and found nothing at all on the company. Rumbaugh stated, "I found it very suspicious in the fact that we got a business operating in Osceola County that has basically no paper trail on it." Sounds like this deputy was really onto something, and that would be a threat to all these people, especially former Sheriff Lopez. Rumbaugh stated that all the supervisors he reported his findings to fall under Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez's command. That could be a problem. Rumbaugh stated that after his Eclipse visit and the phone conversation with the owner, he did hear an internal agency rumor that there was an inquiry that came from the higher level of command to his captain, Fred Hinderman, who was assigned to the West Road Patrol commander at the time. Rumbaugh stated, "I thought I was going to get in trouble going there because what the owner was saying that the sheriff was his friend, and I knew what I was doing." He was told by both Sergeant Boise and Lieutenant Olson, "Don't worry, we got your back," and so does Captain Hinderman. I'm wondering if all these deputies are still with the department today. On January 26, 2025, HSI SA Daniel Kroll learned that Kate was traveling from Costa Rica to Orlando, Florida. Information received during the investigation revealed that Kate was importing gambling machines from China. Decorian and Kate would use these machines in their gambling business locations as well as sell these machines to other people to use in gambling establishments. Based on possible violations of federal importation laws, your officiants learned that Kate was referred to secondary inspection by Customs and Border Protection upon her arrival in the United States. Customs and Border Protection Officer Lumo Aviles conducted a border search. During her encounter with CBP, Kate said she works as a realtor and part owner of a car windshield replacement company named FMG Florida Mobile Glass. Kate was in possession of a backpack and carry-on roller bag during this inspection. Kate claimed ownership of her bags and its contents before a baggage inspection commenced. A baggage inspection was conducted, yielding negative findings for contraband and derogatory information. In furtherance of the enforcement inspection and an extension of the baggage inspection under CBP Border Search Authority, following CBD Directive 3340-049A, Kate was explained the authority for the inspection of the electronic devices and a tear sheet was provided. CPB asked Kate for the passcodes for her electronic devices, which she provided. HSI SA Daniel Kroll responded to the airport and took custody of the devices. Your officiants learned that SA Daniel Kroll provided Kate with a DHS form 605-1D 1082-702 for the detention of her cell phone and laptop computer in furtherance of the investigation. Kate was thanked for her cooperation and was subsequently admitted into the United States. That seems like a mistake now, doesn't it? S.A. Kroll brought the electronic devices to the HSI Orlando office located at 6643 Hazleton National Drive, Orlando, Florida. HSI computer forensic agent Manuel Cento Flores took custody of the devices, extracted the data, and conducted the border search. On February 6, 2025, your officiant Florida Department of Law Enforcement Inspector James Frankwitz and HSI S.A. Kroll met with Kate at the HSI ASAC office at 10 a.m. Your officiant and S.A. Kroll introduced themselves and had a short consensual conversation with Kate. Yes, I am completely not saying her Chinese name. As a result of the border search, S.A. Kroll found evidence that Kate had been importing COVID-19 related equipment. That is scary, guys. S.A. Kroll asked Kate about the COVID-19 related equipment she imported through China. During the conversation, she stated she was friends with the Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. It's called Name Drop City. Kate stated she had been given $25,000 to Marcos Lopez in the past. Kate had brought a second phone with her to the HSI Orlando office. S.A. Kroll asked for her consent to search her second cellular phone. She granted consent and unlocked the phone with the passcode. She also signed ICE Form 73-005, granting consent to search her phone. S.A. Kroll facilitated the extraction of data from Kate's phone. On January 29, 2025, Kristana Dekorian attended a second proffer interview at the Orlando Office of Homeland Security Investigations. Kristana Dekorian's attorney, Dan Eckert, was present, as well as representatives from the Office of Statewide Prosecutor. The interview was recorded, and Kristana Dekorian was sworn in by a certified court reporter. The following is a summary of that interview. Kristana Dekorian reiterated meeting Marcos Lopez in late 2019 when he was campaigning for sheriff of Osceola County. The first time he gave money to Marcos Lopez toward his campaign was $4,000 in cash, which he gave to the security guard Daniel Pagan. After that, he gave Marcos Lopez another $2,000. When Marcos Lopez introduced Dekorian to Kate, they decided to go into business together. For that introduction, Sheriff Marcos Lopez wanted 10% of any profit made from the game store business. Kristana Dekorian stated they had a verbal agreement. During their initial involvement, Kristana Dekorian was in the process of buying and opening the Players Palace store in the Villages. Kristana Dekorian said Marcos Lopez knew the money he was receiving came from the proceeds of their gambling business. Marcos Lopez would get 10% of the revenue as long as the store was in operation. Again, he's reiterating Marcos Lopez not only wanted to get into this illegal gambling operation, but he knew all this money was dirty. It was coming to him already. During this investigation, your officiants learned on September 5th, 2019, Marcos Lopez sent Kate a text message telling her he was going to make a verbal agreement with the Kristana Dekorian, and Lopez eventually arranged for a meeting between Kristana Dekorian and Kate. On January 30th, 2020, Marcos Lopez sent a text to Kristana Dekorian to tell him that Kate was going to pay him money per month in gratitude for getting them together. Kristana said the terms of their agreement were that Marcos Lopez would get paid from the Players Palace store. In return, after Marcos Lopez was elected sheriff, he promised he would help them obtain business locations in Osceola County. Kristana Dekorian stated it was their decision to pay Marcos Lopez 10% of the profits forever, as long as they were making money from the above store. Kristana said he found value partnering with Lopez because they were promised protection in Osceola County after he became sheriff. So, they pay him, they get protection from law enforcement. Dirty money, dirty cop. Dekorian reiterated that Marcos Lopez told Kristana Dekorian that when Lopez becomes sheriff, he would be the most powerful man in the county. According to Kristana Dekorian, Kate paid Marcos Lopez somewhere between $4,000 to $6,000 a month from their earnings. He said this money was separate from the money they contributed to his campaign. In late 2021, Kristana Dekorian and Kate sold off the Players Palace. When that occurred, Marcos Lopez no longer received money from that establishment. Kristana began shopping for building space in Osceola County. On October 20th, 2021, Sheriff Marcos Lopez told Cristana Dacorian to call Graviner Dillon, who had an available building. While in the process of working out a leasing agreement with Dillon, Cristana Dacorian continued to search for locations. Cristana Dacorian informed Sheriff Marcos Lopez of his findings and sought Sheriff Marcos Lopez's input on the business location. Your officiants learned on November 17, 2021, Cristana sent Sheriff Marcos Lopez a screenshot of a potential location. Sheriff Marcos Lopez replied, "Hey bud, that may be in the city of Kissimmee." Because he can't protect them because that's KPD, that's Kissimmee Police Department's territory. Cristana Dacorian's interpretation was that the location was not in his jurisdiction, thus Sheriff Marcos Lopez could not protect him there. Bingo! Cristana Dacorian said he felt pressure to find a potential store location in Osceola County jurisdiction from Sheriff Marcos Lopez. I don't think you were pressured, Cristana. I think you knew this was like a tit for tat sort of situation, and this was like a good situation for the both of you. And you're like, well, if I have to remain in the county lines, I guess I'll make that happen. On May 26, 2022, the former Red Star restaurant and hookah bar, located at 4561 West Earl Bronson Memorial Highway, was turned into the Eclipse Social Club. Dillon was the landlord. Cristana Dacorian said after the Eclipse was open, he and Sheriff Marcos Lopez had discussions about what their business arrangement was going to be. Because there was no internet cafe ordinance in Osceola County, Cristana Dacorian said Sheriff Marcos Lopez wanted to use his influence to get an ordinance pushed through the Osceola County Commission. I'm telling you, it gets worse and worse for Lopez here, doesn't it? Sheriff Marcos Lopez mentioned he had a commissioner friend, of course he did, that could possibly assist. Cristana did not remember the commissioner's name, but said the commissioner was a female. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me either. On July 13, 2022, Cristana sent a text to Sheriff Marcos Lopez telling him that he didn't want a lot of people to know about the ordinance and suggested that Sheriff Lopez push it through secretly. Cristana Dacorian said Sheriff Lopez's girlfriend was present on 3 separate occasions when he paid Marcos Lopez money. He couldn't remember her name but described his girlfriend as being Venezuelan and a realtor in Osceola County. In one instance, Cristana met Sheriff Marcos Lopez at the Cow Steakhouse restaurant. Cristana Dacorian brought money to pay Sheriff Lopez his share of the gambling revenue. When they walked out of the restaurant into their cars, Cristana stated that he handed the sheriff $10,000 cash in a manila envelope. Dacorian stated that Sheriff Marcos Lopez was seated in the driver's seat of his vehicle while his girlfriend was seated in the passenger seat. Dacorian described a second instance when Sheriff Marcos Lopez and his girlfriend arrived at the Eclipse sometime around June or July of 2024. The third instance was at Sheriff Marcos Lopez's 2024 campaign event at a rodeo. Cristana remembered an OCSO deputy drove him to his car to get the envelope with cash, which the deputy never questioned. The deputy then drove Cristana Dacorian to Sheriff Marcos Lopez's car, where he handed the sheriff $15,000 in cash. Cristana Dacorian said 99% of the time when he met with the sheriff, Marcos Lopez, he gave him cash. Cristana stated each time the dollar amount varied between $10,000 to $35,000. In his first proffer, Cristana Dacorian stated he paid Sheriff Marcos Lopez between $600,000 to $700,000 in total during their business relationship. Cristana Dacorian said anytime a person came into the Eclipse they thought was a deputy or police officer, he would send a photo of that person directly to Sheriff Marcos Lopez via text message. By doing so, Cristana Dacorian believed Sheriff Marcos Lopez would intervene for that protection from any investigation into the gaming business. During the interview, Cristana Dacorian was shown the image of a former deputy, Christopher Rumba. In that instance, Cristana Dacorian confirmed that he had called Sheriff Marcos Lopez and informed him Rumba was ordering the business to be shut down. Cristana Dacorian claimed Sheriff Lopez told him that he called Rumba and told him to leave. Cristana was not at the Eclipse when this occurred. Wow. So I guess that Deputy Rumba is no longer with the department. Sounds like from this second proffer here. At the conclusion of his statement, Cristana Dacorian voluntarily surrendered his OCSO polo shirt with the Special Deputy insignia on it, along with his OCSO Special Deputy credentials, Sheriff Star, and his identification card inside a black ID wallet. These items were documented and signed by Kristana Dekorian and S.A. Kroll on an HSI Notice of Abandonment form. Your officiant Inspector Frankwitz took custody of the items and submitted them into the evidence section of the FDLE's Orlando Regional Operations Center. I'll tell you, this whole thing just disgusts me, guys. It really, really does. I mean, dirty cops are bad, but a dirty sheriff? I feel like it's even worse. On February 12, 2025, your officiant FDLE Inspector James Franks and Inspector David Snowden obtained a sworn recorded statement from MBI Director Ronald Stucker. The statement took place at the Office of Executive Investigations in Orlando. Director Stucker had pertinent information regarding the Eclipse Social Club search warrant MBI executed on August 27, 2024. Below is a brief synopsis of his statement. Director Stucker stated months before the August 27th raid, MBI Task Force Officer Kimberly Abante and other members of the MBI met with members of the Osceola Narcotics Investigative Bureau and the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. The meeting was to make OCSO aware of their investigation and for deconflictation. Stucker believed this was the first time OCSO knew of the investigation. Director Stucker said they were set to conduct a search warrant at 10 a.m. As he pulled away from the staging area and en route to the Eclipse, he received a phone call from Sheriff Marcos Lopez at 9:37 a.m. What a coinkydink! Director Stucker said he couldn't remember the exact wording, but Marcos Lopez inquired about the activity of the search warrant. Director Stucker thanked Marcos Lopez for their agency assistance. Director Stucker stated Marcos Lopez expressed some concern about the type of operation. Marcos Lopez mentioned that the Lake County Sheriff Grinnell raided a place like the Eclipse and seized all the machines, but they later had to return them. Director Stucker said he was left with the impression that Marcos Lopez questioned whether the law was clear on gaming stores or internet cafes. Director Stucker informed Marcos Lopez that the Florida Attorney General's Office of Statewide Protection was involved, reviewed all the information, and was prepared to prosecute the case. He also informed Marcos Lopez that Homeland Security Investigations was running a parallel investigation involving money laundering, and OSP was prepared to adopt their case also. Director Stucker wanted to reassure Marcos Lopez that MBI had already vetted the legalities of the case with OSP before they proceeded with their investigation. Stucker said Sheriff Marcos Lopez inquired about the identity of the club owner. Stucker couldn't remember the owner's name, right, but then told Marcos Lopez it sounded like a Middle Eastern name. Director Stucker said this phone conversation with Marcos Lopez was the one and only time they spoke since the commencement of their investigation. Stucker stated that because of the allegations made against Marcos Lopez and after speaking with Assistant Commissioner A.C. Lee Massey, he prepared handwritten notes for himself. Stucker provided your officiant Frankwitz with a copy of his handwritten notes that were reviewed as part of this investigation. Your officiants later learned that Marcos Lopez's phone tolls revealed that on August 27, 2024 at 9:14 a.m., he called Kristana Dekorian. Marcos Lopez then called Director Stucker at 9:37 a.m., approximately 23 minutes after the call was placed to Dekorian's phone number. On February 13, 2025, your officiant Inspector James Franks, Homeland Security Investigation Special Agent S.A. Daniel Kroll, and your officiant HSI Task Force Officer Frank Tagler obtained a voluntary sworn statement from Kate at the HSI office located at 6643 Hazleton National Drive, Orlando. Below is a brief synopsis of her statement as reviewed by your officiants. Kate stated that she first met Marcos Lopez in 2019 when he came into her business, Kylan Realty, located at 5168 West Colonial Drive in Orlando. She stated Marcos Lopez entered her office asking for donations as he was fundraising for his campaign. Why would he go to Orlando for donations for... Orlando is Orange County. Why would he go out of Osceola County? Yeah. Marcos Lopez said he could help the Chinese community by protecting their public information. Marcos Lopez told her to get the Chinese people together so he could tell them how to avoid being scammed. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what he was going to do. Kate agreed to donate, so she gave Marcos Lopez a $1,000 check. Marcos Lopez told her that that was the maximum amount for a donation from an individual. She wrote the check from her Kylan Realty account. The check was dated August 7th of 2019. Kate said Marcos Lopez asked her what other type of work she did besides real estate. Kate advised she invested in businesses involving mobile glass and online gaming. She also stated that she was an initial investor in a company called Keystar, which was a gaming business she claimed would be legal in 4 states and was a publicly traded company. Kate could not remember the exact time frame, but Marcos Lopez approached her again and told her he had an investment opportunity for her. Marcos Lopez told her he had this Indian businessman, Kristana Dekorian, that had a few gaming stores in the villages. Marcos Lopez told her the man was very successful in the slot machine business, and Kristana wanted to open another store in the center of the villages. Marcos Lopez asked Kate if she was interested in investing. She told Marcos Lopez, "Yeah, of course, I can put in the funding, and he can just work. We can do 50-50. Kate stated that this was how the partnership started. Kate said Marcos Lopez then introduced her to Kristana Dekorian, and she stored his number in her phone as K. Your officiants later confirmed the text messages found on both Kate's and Kristana's phones that supported this information regarding the partnership with Lopez. Yeah. Sketchy stuff. Kate said it looked like Kristana had a very good business going in Lake County with the gaming store, so she thanked him for the opportunity to be a part of it and wanted in. She said she paid the landlord for the Largo store building space and paid up front for the machine she brought in from China. She said she negotiated with the Chinese machine owner, and their agreement was that Kate would lease the slot machines, and in return she would make payments every month to the owner. She said, "At the time I was very legal, especially when Marcos introduced us, I didn't see any problem." Come on now, these guys know this was all sketchy. Really? Kate says she funded $100,000 into the store. Kristana eventually changed the name from Largo to Players Palace. Her investment included bringing the machines from China along with renovated costs. However, she claimed Kristana never paid her any money once the store opened. Kate said Kristana made the excuse of paying too much for the machines. She became frustrated because she had to chase Kristana for her money. Kate said she complained to Marcos Lopez about Kristana Dekorian and wanted to get out of the business with Dekorian. And here's some text messages. This one's from Marcos Lopez. "Kate, nothing to worry, no matter what the outcome is. When I win, we start the first internet amusement cafe in Osceola County. You'll be safe and not have to worry about anything because I will be your sheriff." Kate, yeah. And this was on September 9th of 2019. Your officiants learned that Kristana said he was getting annoyed with Kate because she was showing up at the store every day bothering his employees, and he stated that he had conveyed that to Marcos Lopez. Your officiants located text messages found on both Kristana Dekorian's and Kate's phones that supported this information. Your officiants later confirmed that Kristana and Kate had a warehouse in the city of Claremont that they were utilizing to store the gambling machines that had been brought from China through Kate's connection. A photograph of Kristana Dekorian and Kate together was later found on Kristana Dekorian's phone. The two were posing together at the back of a truck with a forklift and a pallet of boxes. These boxes were believed to be gambling machine components. Your officiants learned that the Claremont warehouse was shut down when HSI and FGCC executed a search warrant at that location. Kate said around September 2024, Kristana told her that Lake County was shutting down all his stores. When Kate heard that Lake County was shutting down all Dekorian stores, they tried moving the machines to a storage locations belonging to a friend of hers. Kate did not provide her name. However, this friend never took possession of the machines because the volume was too much for the space. She stated she eventually tried selling the machines on eBay, but no one bought them. Kate said her machines were still being kept in storage, but did not provide the location. In the previous conversation with Kate, she volunteered a statement. She gave Marcos Lopez an additional $20,000 or $25,000 on top of her $1,000 campaign contribution check. She claimed it was gifted to him because she considered Marcos Lopez a friend. She said there was nothing official or put on paper. Again, they don't put things on paper because they don't want anybody to know. Kate described her relationship with Marcos Lopez as kind of close because he liked one of her girlfriends. When she was asked about what her friend's name was, Kate lowered her voice and said, "Is this related to Marcos?" Kate said she didn't know her friend's legal name, but she worked at Lake Highland Private School as a Chinese teacher. When asked if she was alone or was someone else with her when she gave Marcos Lopez the $20,000 or $25,000, Kate paused and said, "Is this called a bribe?" Kate stated, "I am not bribing him at all. I'm just trying to help him get elected." Kate stated that once Marcos Lopez was elected sheriff, she pulled away a little from their friendship. She didn't want him to feel like she wanted favors from him after she gave him money for his campaign. Really? At that point, why would you care? She said then in 2023, Marcos Lopez called her and asked if she ever got money back from Kristana Dekorian. She told him she did not. She said Marcos Lopez told her he could help her open a gaming store in Osceola County. Kate asked Marcos Lopez who was going to run the store. Marcos Lopez told her he had a Spanish restaurant that was interested. Kate described the restaurant as being in front of Old Town. Marcos Lopez told her she could utilize the second floor of the restaurant because it was 5,000 square feet. She said Marcos Lopez told her, "You can open a store here, I'm here, no problem." Kate thought the business was good because it was around for many years and she felt it was in a good location. Kate brought in 100 machines from China to place inside the restaurant, later confirmed to be Senior Taco. Kate said the machines were now in a self-storage facility. Your officiants later confirmed the location Kate was referring to was Manny's Senior Taco, which is a Puerto Rican cuisine bar and grill that was located at 5795 West Earl of Bronson Memorial Highway in Kissimmee. There were text messages captured from Kate's phone between Kate and Marcos Lopez about the above restaurant as a possible gaming business location. Your officiants learned that Kate also took a photo of the front of the restaurant after Marcos Lopez advised her to go there and see the place for herself. Kate said this was the second time Marcos Lopez engaged me or encouraged her to get involved with the gaming business. She said the owner of the restaurant was Rafael, who was later identified by your officiants as Rafael Santos Aponte. Your officiants learned that Marcos Lopez referred to Rafael as Rafa, the businessman, in a text he had sent Kate. Kate said that when Marcos Lopez engaged her the second time, he was already the sheriff, and that's why she felt there was no problem with it. Kate denied ever meeting with Marcos Lopez with other investors to form a PAC or political action committee. She also denied ever having a contract or written agreement with Marcos Lopez pertaining to the gaming store business. When confronted with a copy of the consultation client agreement document that was prepared and emailed to her on September 9, 2019 from Marcos Lopez, she claimed it did not have anything to do with gaming but was simply for his consulting business. After receiving the agreement, she stated she had sent it back to Marcos Lopez but changed the name from Kylan Realty to Wonderful Investments LLC. Man, those LLCs sure cover a lot of gaps, huh? Your officiants later learned that Wonderful Investments LLC was used by Kate when she was attempting to bring in masks and ventilators from China during the COVID-19 pandemic. Text messages between Marcos Lopez and Kate revealed a string regarding this contract. A text message recovered from Kristana's phone between Kristana Dekorian and Marcos Lopez contradicted what Kate stated about meeting with Marcos Lopez to form a PAC. Here are the text messages here. Screenshot. On March 6, 2025, your officiants obtained a sworn statement from Rachel Harkins. Harkins owned and operated RHS Security Services, LLC. Rachel Harkins stated she had been operating RHS Security Services since 2005. Harkins stated that she started working for Kristana in 2018. Harkins provided security for Kristana at his locations, Players Club in Leesburg, Players Palace in the Villages, the Players Palace in Lake Panacosby, and the Palace in Claremont. Harkins stated that she provided security to the Eclipse when they first opened, but security was taken over by the Peterson Security Group. Harkins stated she worked the night shift during her time at Eclipse. Harkins was paid by either Kristana or Sharon Frederick, and then she paid her guards for the security services. Kristana told her he was friends with Marcos Lopez, the sheriff of Osceola County. Kristana referred to Marcos Lopez as his buddy. Harkins says she was initially introduced to Marcos Lopez in Leesburg when he and Kristana were looking at empty building space. Kristana told her they were looking for building space to possibly open a gun store. Harkins saw Marcos Lopez again at the Eclipse grand opening. Marcos Lopez brought a woman with him Harkins assumed was his wife. She said Marcos Lopez was dressed in plain clothes each time and drove a black Chevy Tahoe. On March 11, 2025, your officiant Frankwitz and Inspector David Snowden obtained a sworn voluntary statement from Julius Melendez. Melendez was identified as the former campaign manager for Marcos Lopez during his 2020 campaign for sheriff of Osceola County. The meeting with Melendez took place at 1012 Emmett Street, Kissimmee, and the statement was recorded. Before the interview began, your officiant learned that Melendez already knew about the topic of the interview. He said it was about Sheriff Marcos Lopez. Melendez is employed by Kate as her broker for Kylan Realty, and he stated that she made him aware of the investigation. Melendez stated that during his first campaign, Sheriff Marcos Lopez introduced Kate to Melendez. Melendez said Kate was involved in multiple business ventures, but he was only involved with her real estate company. During his interview, your officiants learned that Melendez was Sheriff Marcos Lopez's campaign manager and a volunteer during the 2020 race for Osceola County Sheriff. As a reward for being his campaign manager, it was implied that if Marcos Lopez was elected sheriff, Melendez would be given a position at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. After winning the primary, Sheriff Marcos Lopez started to exclude Melendez from events. Sheriff Marcos Lopez also started to develop his transition team, which did not include Melendez. Melendez eventually discovered that Sheriff Marcos Lopez hired Nerva Rodriguez for that team instead. And Nerva Rodriguez, that is the blonde that was fired not long after he was arrested. They said it had nothing to do with this investigation, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But she was also the one that took that photograph with Stephen Stearns in the background at the jail. That's her. Melendez said Sheriff Marcos Lopez ran against the incumbent Sheriff Russ Gibson. Melendez said because of the ratio of Democratic voters was greater than Republican voters during that time, Sheriff Marcos Lopez was likely to win the general election. Melendez remembered before the primary he asked Kate if Sheriff Marcos Lopez was going to be able to raise the money he needed to win. Kate told him she gave Sheriff Marcos Lopez a lot of money, which amounted to roughly $20,000, but did not know the exact amount. Melendez said he was not the treasurer and therefore did not have access to the campaign financial documents. Melendez stated Ruben De Jesus and Ricardo Rick Garcia were also involved with Sheriff Marcos Lopez's campaign. He described De Jesus as Sheriff Marcos Lopez's consultant, and Garcia was Sheriff Marcos Lopez's social media outreach person. Your officiants learned that Melendez said he went out with the Sheriff Marcos Lopez to raise donations for his campaign. He recalled one time during a fundraiser they raised $3,000 or $4,000, but at the end of the night they counted $2,000. And Sheriff Lopez didn't know where the rest of the collected money went. Gee, I'm sure he did. Melendez said somebody must have kept his cash so he didn't put it all in. Sheriff Lopez received predominantly check donations. Melendez remembered a time when Sheriff Marcos Lopez chartered a tour bus for the campaign. Melendez said he, Sheriff Lopez, De Jesus, and Garcia were on the bus. During that event, Kate boarded the bus while parked at the Kissimmee Civic Center located at 201 East Dakin Avenue in Kissimmee. There, Melendez said he witnessed Kate deliver a manila envelope to De Jesus, who handed the envelope to Sheriff Marcos Lopez. Melendez believed the envelope contained cash. He then recalled an occasion when he looked over Sheriff Marcos Lopez's campaign documents. Melendez said he did not find a recording of the $20,000 donation from Kate or any other monies Kate allegedly gave Sheriff Lopez. Melendez told your officiants that he confronted Sheriff Marcos Lopez about the money discrepancy, which upset Marcos Lopez. He stated Lopez was angry with him and called Kate and asked her to fire him from the real estate brokerage. You can't question the former sheriff, can you? If you do, he wants you gone. Your officiants learned that Melendez said while Lopez was campaigning for sheriff, that Lopez was hustling in different businesses. Sheriff Marcos Lopez had created his own company called Lo Jing T to do security audits. He said Sheriff Marcos Lopez experimented with the food truck business with Garcia. Sheriff Marcos Lopez wanted to work with De Jesus in promotions, but De Jesus did not want to share his business. Lastly, Melendez said Sheriff Marcos Lopez wanted to get into the gaming industry with Kate, which he eventually did. Although Kate hired Melendez as her broker, Marcos Lopez did not want Melendez involved in the business relationship with Kate. He said Kate told him about her investment in the gaming business. Melendez stated that he then warned Kate that she was getting into some slimy stuff that was not really legal. Okay, so here are some screenshots of some of the text messages and such between Marcos Lopez and Kate, and as well as Decorian. So I'm going to kind of sift through them here. They are hard to read. So that one looks like it's an image on the first one, and then Kate is in the green. She's saying, "How was it?" And Lopez is saying, "Very nice, you owe me $40, I lost, LOL." And then he replies again, joking. And these are dated, it looks like 11/7 of 2019. And again, it says screenshots of messages between Ying Zhang, which is Kate, and Marcos Lopez from her phone. And here's some other ones. This one says sheriff. Also, remember we made an agreement with Kate. I believe these are from Decorian's phone. Also, remember we made an agreement with Kate to pay me some money for the connection. Starting this December 1st, how are we going to do it? Just wondering how we will do it. And he responds, "We going to talk." And then the sheriff states, "Okay, just let me know, brother." Again, that's the screenshots between Kristana Decorian and Marcos Lopez from Kristana's phone. And this one's pretty good. This one is Lopez asking Kate for his monthly cut from Kate and Decorian's gambling business. So this one's organized very, very well. On the left, we've got Marco Lopez says, "I forgot to get with you. We never signed our agreement for my part in gaming business with Chris. Do we sign or you get with Chris and just deposit money in my account and he pay you the difference?" And it looks like there's some sort of IRS attachment here. And again, these are multiple text messages, it looks like, attached. So on the right, we've got Marcos Lopez stating, "Are you going to send money this month or are you still in China?" And Kate replies, "I'm here since last week." And below that, she said, "I didn't get money from Chris yet." So those are pretty damning. And here is one from former Sheriff Lopez. Again, these are hard to read, so I'm going to try to decipher them. "Hey, bud, I spoke to Kate. She was going to give me some money per month in gratitude of getting you both together to do business. She spoke with me and showed me the numbers after costs. She's not making money to be able to pay. I remember the day we spoke at the Chinese restaurant that the villages would pay big time. What's going on? Is it not paying like it should? She also showed me expenses on security. I'm not sure if that's security or not. Almost $6,000. I thought you did not have security. Not sure what's going on." Again, that is from Lopez to Kristana Decorian. That's recovered from his cell phone. And then they're getting into here, they're talking about how they went after Kristana Decorian for money laundering. So this is, again, a big situation. And it's obvious that Kristana Decorian is really one of the main players. And then you have Kate, who came into it, who from China. And then you had former Sheriff Marcos Lopez. So, and then you had their employees. So while their employees, like Sharon and, Carol Coate and Sheldon, they did illegal activities and they had been arrested and charged, I feel like they didn't do nearly what those three did at all. And I do wonder if there will be any kind of deals with any of those folks. So again, they're talking about more undercover operations about Kristana. Again, this is quite the operation that the Homeland Security and the Florida Gaming Commission, I think that this is quite amazing what they were able to accomplish, and not only nailing down a major gambling ring, racketeering, and with this money laundering situation. But you got a sheriff, a corrupt sheriff, in the mix. So again, it's a lot, and I applaud all of these law enforcement and federal officers for what they have been able to accomplish. And you can see at the top here, I'm only not even, there's over 100 pages left of this affidavit, but I am going to go back through it, but I do think that we pretty much have a very good idea what was going on, and we definitely know how Marcos Lopez became involved, and he was just their protection and the most powerful man in Osceola County. Yeah. This is a lot. This is a really, really lot. And while I haven't finished going through about 100 pages, maybe just over 100 pages now, it's amazing how dirty Lopez is. It's despicable. It really is. And he went out, and there was all kinds of videos that he did with the department on how they would not tolerate crime and bad people and all this other garbage in, Osceola County. And here he is taking money, doing all this stuff, behind closed doors, inside of his black SUV and all this other stuff. And he's got a wife and a girlfriend, and it's crazy. So I hope they throw the book at him. I really, really do. And again, it looks like October 20th is about the trial that's set. I'm hoping they're going to stream it, and I'll have to let you guys know about that. I'm going to continue to go through the rest of the affidavit. I'll probably just do a summary and kind of condense all this stuff about Lopez and all the key players, so that we don't have to keep going through it all. But man, I don't know about you guys, but it is very, very interesting to me how this all does come together. It's like a crazy puzzle with so many pieces. Alright guys, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and most of all, stay safe.